And now I'm ready to make some magic.
Okay, well, let's make some magic then. Hold on. How you doing?
What's going on? Where's Daniel? We can't all fucking ever meet together on this fucking podcast?
I'm so sorry. He's got responsibilities in New York he must take care of.
Well, let me tell you something. Back in the day, Joelle, we used to have perfect attendance on this podcast.
It's your fault. They gave us more responsibility. They were like, wow, you guys are so good with those guys. Here's additional responsibilities. And now.
Oh, really?
So we get
That's
called
what
away.
happens.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happens on TV shows, by the way. Bill was telling me, he says, the reason TV shows are so good at the beginning is you get an amazing group of writers. And then the show gets popular. And then every single writer gets poached off to go make their own thing, which is good for them. Give everybody their flowers. But then the show takes a downturn because you lost the original amazing posse that made the show great.
I think
so
you two are the magic.
if you're wondering why your favorite show changed, it's because it got too popular and all the writers got poached.
You know who's going through that right now, big time?
Who?
The Marvel Cinematic Universe. Everybody is leaving that bad boy, yo.
What do you mean?
Everybody.
What do you mean? You mean the actors or the I understand the writers.
The executives, the creatives, all of them are either leaving and or being pushed aside. I'm very interested to see what happens with that. Like trying to recreate what they did in the first 10 years and do it again in the 10 years that follow. It's going to be very difficult.
They're just going to I think they're going to bring everybody back. All those people are going to make offers they can't refuse. And then little by little, you'll have the whole OG squad. Oh, I'm talking about actors.
No, I feel that.
No, I feel like they're going to bring all the actors back too, and they will make offers that they can't refuse. I mean, Chris Evans.
They'll be like Hammer
back.
Studios.
Yeah,
I'm sure Scarlett. They're going to do something with Scarlett. There's no way.
They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out.
She got that Jurassic Park.
Okay, we got a lot to talk about. Before I
don't know where to begin. I mean, I don't even know where to begin.
First of all right, I'll tell you where we can begin.
Where can we possibly? We haven't done this in how long, Joelle? We haven't gathered.
A month. I think a full month since we last met.
The city almost burned to the ground. So audience, we're taping this on the 28th of January. And we had to take a pause, obviously, because of the fires, which were devastating here and very scary. And this is the first time we
had Johnny on that day, bro. And
we had him scheduled the day the fire started, yeah.
We were talking about it on the show, how I could see the smoke over the hill. Let me tell you something. That shit got 0.8 miles away from me. Not only that, the night after we spoke to Johnny, 8 fires erupted all over California.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. You had to evacuate your house too, bro.
Yes. In fact, what was crazy was I was housing the Lawrence family. Bill's family was very close to the Palisades fire. And so I said, come to my place, please, because I wanted to rescue them and I had the bedroom. So they came to mine. And then we were sitting down to dinner. And we're obviously glued to the TV like everyone. And we look up and Runyon Canyon is on fire. Now, Runyon Canyon is very close to me. And we were like, we got to get the fuck out of here. We're running out of places to go. So
I offered.
Yeah, you did. You did. And we ended up going to Andrew Watt's studio because it was deep in the valley. And we kind of went there and regrouped to just be like, where do we go now? Because all the hotel rooms were taken. It was really scary. But for those of you who don't know LA, the worst fires, the Altadena fire and the Palisades fire, they're pretty far from each other. So two different areas that are really far apart from each other were burning to the ground.
Wiped out.
We thought we were safe in where I live, but then the third big one started, and thank God the firefighters were able to put that Runyon fire out real quick, and we were only evacuated for a night here.
It got real dicey where I was. Like, this fire was so close that at nighttime it seemed like I was surrounded by like an orange glow, and that got really scary. And then every neighborhood in my vicinity got evacuated except for my little, when you go to watch duty, every section around my little section got evacuated. And it just seemed like, oh, we're going to get evacuated next. We packed the car up. We packed all of our pets up.
Where were you going to go?
We were trying to figure it out. It seemed like everywhere you could go, there was a fire blazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I told you, at worst case scenario, just come to my house and we'll put you on couches.
They had just put that fire out in your in your area. You know what I mean? And so it was dicey. Some people fled to Palm Springs. Some people fled to other friends' houses. Look, I know a lot of people, as well as you do, that have lost their everything. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. It's like you pick 4 people, right? And 4 people that have lost all of their stuff. They know 4 people and more that have lost all of their stuff, whether it be their neighbors or people who lived in the area. It's
my friend lost everything. He said the hardest thing is so much of it is hard to grasp, he said, but the hardest thing is that everything his kids have ever had, their favorite stuffed animal, their favorite toy, their A they got on their paper in class, anything that they have any memory of or growing up is gone.
It was nuts, man. It was nuts. But thankfully, the firefighters were able to contain both fires. It's really amazing how California came together. People went out and donated their clothes and donated food and donated water and
how badass are those firemen and women. I mean those the ones in the chopper. I mean all of them. Period. So brave and just we just owe so much gratitude to them. But watching those videos of those planes and choppers dumping water and those pilots flying into that smoke and fire, it's just
these cats are doing Millennium Falcon moves in D-16s and shit like that, man. It was like, holy cow, bro!
No, when you play, when you on the Watch Duty app. For those of you who don't know, Watch Duty is this wildfire app that everyone in LA downloaded because it showed you where the fires were. And then there's another tier which I paid for, which it shows you exactly where every firefighting aircraft was, which was really cool because you could see that's where they're throwing all the attention. That must be the worst spot right there. It was really fascinating and just so incredibly. How I'm blown away by how brave these men and women are.
Yeah, it's amazing. It truly was amazing to see.
A fire truck drove by me the other day, and out in my neighborhood, I was like a kid. I was no different than a 5-year-old. I was like thumbs up. I was like doing the fake bow. I was like doing this fucking thing where you cheer on both sides of your head. I'm sure that everyone has that response to them, but I wanted to hug them because my house survived.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people who didn't. The crazy thing is that people that did lose homes are having a hard time finding new places to live, to rent,
and they're jacking up the prices.
And the prices are gouged and everything.
Yeah, I mean, people are that's going to be, I don't know where all those people are going to live. It's so crazy.
Let's move on to another.
Let's talk about other topics. Go ahead.
What
else you got?
Skeleton Crew. What a way back Star Wars. Way to go, Star Wars. You did it. You came back from the depths of I'm drooling. That's how much I loved it. It came back from the depths of I don't know if I want to watch Star Wars anymore to now Star Wars is back. I don't think they need to do anything else with any other characters.
Joelle, do you feel the same about this show?
Let me finish. Let me finish. They should focus on those 4 characters. The kids. That's the new group of Star Wars. That's the new Star Wars right there. We had Luke, Leia, and Han and Chewie. Now we got Wim, freaking, and the rest of them. Let's stay there, bro. That was fire.
Okay. Joelle, do you feel the same as a Star Wars devotee?
It's wonderful that Star Wars has returned to its roots, which is to make entertainment for
Joelle,
children.
you're going to need to use your volume and get off your NPR voice.
Sorry, I'm trying to be
It's
mellow.
wonderful that Skeleton Crew is back.
Skeleton Crew.
I enjoy it. It's a very good
Jude Law is magical.
I think I have a theory that Joelle is on another podcast and she has to play a different character on that podcast.
I'm going to bet she is.
And then she forgets to switch to high energy, silly Joelle when she comes on this one.
I got a code switch back to the hyperactive version of me
you
when I
need
get
to
over
code
here.
switch, Joelle.
So, okay, I'm going to work on I think Star Wars' best decision was that they cast Jude Law. That guy is magical. And he
really
does
did a
such
great
a good job of being both the sparkling, winking character and also genuinely terrifying at some points. And to be able to do both is really challenging, but to do both in like seconds of each other is masterful. I think we're going to see Wim in the Ray series. That seems to be the prevailing thought. They did a good job. It was fun. I was entertained. I think kids will really like it. They needed kids to come back to Star Wars, so that's a positive. Andor's around the corner, so it looks like things are coming up good for Star Wars.
I'll watch Andor. I like
you
Andor.
will. It's fucking great.
I gotta say, I'm watching a new show. For those of you who don't care about Star Wars, it's so good. It's called The Pit.
Oh,
yes,
you
Zach.
like The Pit?
Good choices.
You know, it's compared to, they say if you like The Pit, you'll love Scrubs. That's what they say.
Well, no, you're not serious. The Pit is...
I am serious.
Well, The Pit, just for those who don't know the premise, first of all, Noah Wyle is back. I don't know why he was gone for so long. He is such a good actor. Mm-hmm. And the premise of The Pit is it's 15 episodes, and each episode is an hour of this doctor's life in a very intense ER in Pittsburgh. And so he's the lead doctor in the ER, and all of these stories are unfolding, and every episode is an hour in real time. And it is so good. The acting is excellent. The characters are excellent. The stories are so intriguing. You feel like it's building and building and building to something. I highly, highly recommend it. I wish there were more. I wish I could binge it. They're doing that fucking thing where it comes out every week. I need them.
I'm very happy for Noah, man.
Me too. He's a good fucking actor.
Not only that, man, you know, he was the guy from ER for a really long time. And to find a way to shed that character.
Well, he's back to playing an ER doctor, but it's not, I didn't watch ER, but I don't know that it's the same character, but he's such a fine actor.
He is well-deservant. There's that word again. He's well-deservant.
Did we ever just decide if that's a word or not, Joelle?
It's in the dictionary now.
Deservant? Okay.
It's in our dictionary.
Because of us. It's in our dictionary. But he is well-deservant of the hype, of the accolades, of the amount of viewership that show is getting, because he is a very, very fine actor, as you said before.
He is. And I got to say, I always root for people when they somehow go away for whatever reason. I'm not saying he wasn't working. I don't mean to say he wasn't. I'm sure he was. But now he's back in a very high-profile HBO Max show. And he's one of those actors that I go, God, I love watching him. He's so interesting. Mm-hmm. I root for him.
There was a reason ER was great. And it wasn't just George Clooney. He had a lot to do with it. A lot.
Well, this is John Wells as well. Joelle, didn't he create ER?
I believe so. Let me just double check that fact.
They're a good team. Put those two in a hospital ER show, and I'm in. And I never really watched ER, to be honest.
Neither did I.
I know it's extremely popular because it's been on for 75 years. But this is a different take. And I think actually Scrubs fans who are listening, you will love it because obviously there's no comedy, but it's I'm sure a very, very accurate telling of what it's like for these people in an inner city trauma center. It's just so realistic to me for someone who pretended to be a doctor for a while. And it's a teaching hospital, just like Scrubs was. So you're seeing them try and attend to all the patients, but at the same time trying to educate the younger kids. And I don't know, I just find it fascinating.
Okay, so Michael Crichton created ER, is that correct?
Michael Crichton did.
John Wells had nothing to do with ER?
I'm not saying he had nothing to do with it, but I think Michael Crichton created it.
I'm not good
that is not false.
John Wells, I think, was associated with it, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong 7 times in my life.
Hey, okay, so let's move on.
What's the next topic, Donald?
I'm still sober.
Oh, thunderous applause. Hold on. I got to dust off my thunderous applause button.
I don't know if I can hear it, but okay.
I can hear it.
I'm not going to lie. I did have a drink or two while out eating sushi.
Okay.
But for the most part.
How are you feeling?
You know what sucks is that the appetite has come back And I didn't think I didn't
Even
want
without ganja.
even without ganja, I'm eating more now than I did when I was smoking weed. And that's the crazy thing. It's
How's
like,
your workouts going?
I work out, it's not every day. It should be every day. I'm 50, so I should be working out every day. But I work out. It's still, but I think the amount of food I'm consuming, bypasses and shuts.
Yeah, you're eating too many calories.
Yeah, way too many calories.
Is there a way you can, since you're on a roll with everything else, is there a way you can, get onto a good habit with not overeating?
I think there is. I thought it was cooking at home. It just so happens that I cook a lot of food and eat that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw you post like fried chicken or something.
I made that shit and it was good, baby. Let me tell you something. That shit was good. Look at it. I'm getting titties and everything.
Yeah.
That shit was good.
How'd you playing with them?
Up?
Oh my God.
Don't play with them while we're shooting. There's video on this now. No one wants to see that.
That's the sign of you doing the right thing. When your woman does this when you're hitting it, you're doing the right thing.
For those of you listening, he is grabbing his breasts and playing with his nipples. We'll have to ask Jillian Turecki if that's what.
No,
that's why you know.
Let's not do that.
Oh
I don't think we should do that. I don't think we should do that. But yeah, man, that's the
I'm
one
proud
thing.
of you. That's very good. I'm doing pretty good myself. I took a tiny break because I went skiing and I had a couple of drinks skiing, but
Nice.
But I'm for the most part continuing my mostly boozeless 2025.
Good for you.
Very nice.
Stay sober.
Well, I'd feel so much better when I don't put that shit in my body personally.
You know what I'm noticing now?
Go ahead.
Now, when I eat shitty food, now I feel bad after eating shitty food. Like my body doesn't respond to it.
Yeah, your body doesn't want that shit.
Yeah, these are things I'm learning.
I went skiing, which was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We were at Sundance, but we didn't really go to much Sundance stuff because the secret trick about Sundance, if you don't have a movie there and you're not going to see movies, is that the ski mountains are empty. So you can ski and all the people are at the festival.
So how'd you ski?
Oh, very nice.
I did pretty good. For a guy who skis once or twice a year, I think I'm pretty decent.
Cross
Who'd you go
country,
with?
downhill. What are we talking?
Okay.
Downhill. Yeah, downhill
okay.
skiing. Along with a bunch of folks, Donald.
All white, obviously, because ain't no black people skiing.
No, I don't.
That's a
just when you thought you were
lie.
being clever, Nichelle came.
Nichelle went. Can she ski?
She didn't ski, but she came.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. She was like, "I'm gonna hang
Hell
out.
no.
I'm gonna hang out, but I ain't going out in that cold ass weather."
She had fits. She had fits for days, though.
I bet she did. I bet
you
she
should
had.
see the fits.
You know how I feel about Nichelle. Nichelle, fine.
Yeah, she is fine. And she has a lot of fits. So she came prepared with every time we went out. She had a better fit on than I just had like sweatpants
Amazing.
and shit.
And she was like,
good.
no.
Yeah.
This is my skiing outfit. You going
Yep.
skiing, girl? No, but this is my outfit.
Jillian's here, guys.
All right, let's invite Jillian in.
5, 6,
Here's
7,
some
8.
stories about a show we made about a bunch of docs and nurses and a janitor who loved to hate. I said, here's our stories that you all should know. So gather round to hear our Scrubs Rewatch show with Zach and Donald.
Jillian Turecki is an extremely gifted, wise woman when it comes to dating advice. I just want to start off by saying if you are trying to date or looking for love in all the wrong places, you should be following Jillian Turecki on Instagram because she drops knowledge bombs all day long. Welcome
Thank you
back
so
to
much.
the program, Jillian.
Like I was saying, you fucked him up.
Well, how did she fuck me up? I mean, I was trying
My
to
man-
use her advice.
And you did, and it was in a good way. You know what I mean? It was like you went from not really certain on what it was you wanted or how you wanted it and all of that stuff to being very specific. You were very specific, and you were very
Yes.
specific about your actions too. and
Well,
what you were
Jillian
doing.
has a new book, your first book, right?
Yeah, it's my first book.
Your first book, and it's called It Begins With You. Now, if you're dating, if you're out there, if you're dispirited, if you're frustrated, I highly recommend getting this book. I'm going to read it myself.
Or even if you're in a relationship or a marriage.
Okay, because it helps you keep it going in a successful way?
Or it just helps you if you're having any sort of relationship issue, if you're in a relationship and struggling, as well as if you're dating.
I like the title because I believe in that. I think one of the things that Donald's alluding to is that I had to look at how I was behaving in terms of how I was showing up and how I was communicating. Because for personally, I think one of my biggest, I'll just share openly right off the bat, is I get afraid to speak my mind and what I'm really feeling, and I hold it in, and I walk on eggshells, and I don't want to cause a problem, and then I hold in all these feelings, and then someone told me a great quote, which was, that anger it turns into resentment when you hold it inside, and then resentment held in for too long turns into depression. And that really kind of landed with me because I was just being a wimp about communicating. Right? I'll let you take it from there. But that's the title of your book. It Begins With You.
Yeah. So bravo for, the whole point is to I want to encourage people to find the courage to look in the mirror and ask themselves the really difficult question, how might I be contributing to that which I say I don't want? And that can be applied to every aspect of life. I specifically apply it to romantic relationships. And so, we all have our stuff. None of us go into a relationship perfect. We all are afraid that we're not enough in some way. And that fear isn't the same for everyone. It exists on the spectrum. But there's no place other than a romantic situation, a relationship or a dating scenario where we are not going to be confronted with that fear that somehow we are not enough more. That's where it's going to happen. So, when you refer to I hold it in. First of all, that's a very common narrative with men. It's not, women do it too, but I do notice a lot of men in relationships, there's a fear of disappointing. There's a fear of, if I express my feelings, am I going to look like a wimp, or am I going to be heard or understood? We all want to be heard and understood. And so this idea of, well, I don't express my feelings, so I walk around on eggshells, like typically, and I would imagine this is the case for you, and for a lot of people, will say, well, then it's the other person, right? And look, one may be in a relationship where the other person is more of the problem. I don't really love this platitude that's out there, like, yes, the problem is me, from a Taylor Swift song or whatever. But it's just that if you have to be the change that you want to see in your relationship. So what are your patterns? What are your patterns from how you choose to how you show up? And by the way, here's some really important insight for you. Everything that you do in a relationship that you're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing that, you're doing it because you don't want to lose love. So the intention is always pure. Yeah. The intention is always to self-protect and to self-preserve.
I think a lot of times for me, it's that I don't want to cause waves. I had my father had quite a temper when I was a child, and I think I have some trauma from arguing. Not that in my relationships are on the level, arguments are on the level of my father screaming at me as a child. But I think that one thing I've sort of looked at in therapy is really wanting to avoid confrontation, just because I have this childhood trauma from even a mild argument, even a mild amount of tension. My anxiety rises. And it probably obviously applies to other areas of my life, but since we're here talking to you about relationships. And so I found when I was taking a look at stuff, partially inspired by you, that I was avoiding any kind of, even the most mild confrontation, just to not go there and not to have uncomfortable conversations, which is so fucking unhealthy, because the more you swallow it, the more you keep it inside, you become very resentful to the person. Obviously, this applies to friendships and family members as well, but let's talk about relationships. You become resentful to your partner, and they haven't really done anything necessarily, because you're the one who isn't having the courage to communicate, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll add something else. And this is a really interesting paradox. In your attempt to sort of keep the peace and to not want to create any waves or not have, you want to avoid the confrontation. So you go into a little bit of avoidance. You actually become, when you do that, unsafe to your partner. Because what makes a person safe in a relationship is always being upfront about where you stand and where the other person stands in your heart. And when you're avoiding the conversations, you are in your own way avoiding the truth. And if you avoid the truth, then people can never really feel totally secure with you, because then they think, well, number one, they think, can I have an argument with this person and know that it's going to be okay? Can I trust that this person is actually going to tell me how they feel? Or are they just going to tell me what I want to hear? Yeah. And so these conversations, the way to reframe it is, look, I don't like to, I don't want to have these difficult conversations either, but you do it in service of the relationship. So if you stop thinking it from the perspective of, oh, I'm doing this because I need to speak my truth, or I'm doing this because they need to know my needs. If we can remove it from that sort of selfish lens, which we tend to, even the most giving and loving of us can tend to be selfish in these scenarios because we are so afraid. If we can instead say, you know what is the best thing for my relationship with this person? The truth. Yeah. Okay, so if I know it's the truth, now it's about, how do I deliver it? How do I express it? Then there's the art of and the science behind having that conversation.
Amen. That's well said.
Donald, that's I find in my relationship, we don't have a hard time talking about anything until it turns into the kids. You know what I mean? And I think that's where, and part of it is like, all right, they're kids, and some of these things they'll grow out of, some of these things we have to address now. But for some reason, when it gets to the kids, maybe it's because I'm afraid to have the conversation about them, but I'm very, very, okay, yeah, absolutely. Whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever you want to do, whatever it is you want to do, we'll do that. And sometimes it's not what I want to do, but, I don't want to fuck my kids up, you know what I mean? And I know she doesn't want to fuck the kids up either. And so
are you saying that are you saying, just so I'm clear, that you're not fully expressed about what you're feeling about what you want to do with the kids, because you're like, I don't want to fuck them up, I'll just yield to whatever you're saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy. And I know it's not healthy. And I see myself doing it. And it's like, I get short-tempered when we talk about the kids. I get, you know what I mean? Like, it's a bunch of things.
It's kind of a similar thing, Donald. It's kind of like avoiding something challenging because you're like, I don't want to fuck something up.
What we're all talking about right now is anxiety.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
fear of And fear. It's very scary. I know it's different when you're in a marriage. I've never been in one, but I think it's very scary to be vulnerable and trust someone on the level that you do when you're in a relationship. And I think that those of us who are anxious folks try and avoid, and that's unhealthy.
It's unhealthy, and it's just. It's not helpful, right? And I think it's about seeing it from the other perspective on how that, rather than just labeling it as unhealthy, it's let me see how an alternative would actually just benefit everyone. And it doesn't actually have to be that scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that a lot of people avoid these hard conversations because maybe they're afraid of disappointing someone. I mean, we're all just afraid of disappointing. We're afraid of I don't want anything to disrupt the peace and the flow. So it's just easier for me to just say yes. And look, I mean, there's some value to saying yes a lot of the time and not creating a bunch of confrontation.
Right.
It's a balance.
You got to pick your time too, right?
You do. Yeah, absolutely.
My therapist was saying that like one of the things he does in his relationship is they'll have a very kind way of saying now's not the time, obviously, but when the time is right, let's just clear this up so we don't have this thing in the air. And I thought that was really healthy.
Yeah.
So the alternative is face your fears and go for it. And if
But how do you, Jillian, advise people who are listening to this and go, okay, you're right. I have been holding it in. I haven't been fully expressing myself to my partner in these ways. How do you begin to approach that? Because you want to do it in the right way. Your partner, you also have to have a partner that's willing to, it goes without saying, but let's say it, you have to have a partner that's willing to go into these to go into these conversations with you, you know?
Yeah.
They have to be willing to want to work on your communication or whatever your conundrum is in your relationship. If they're not down to participate in it evolving, then that tells you that you sort of hit a dead end, haven't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, both people really have. I mean, it's the way that you broach a topic, you know? I mean, you're not really going to get a great response from someone if you're like, we need to talk about this right now. And you, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get a good response.
No, that's
way.
not going to work out well.
It's not going to work out well. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that two of the most underrated relationship skills is one, being able to give feedback with care, and two, being able to receive that feedback and to have a conversation about it. Yeah.
Talk more about that, about having without a counselor, because I know some people get to a point where they have a counselor sort of helping them moderating their discussion. But if someone's not there yet, how do you approach it with your partner in such a way that you want to pivot to better communication without them feeling like you're attacking them?
Why don't you give me an example of something and I will give you a script? How does that sound?
All right, Donald.
Maybe
Donald,
like a topic.
I'm not in a relationship right now, so maybe Donald can.
But you've been in relationships, so.
Yes, I have. Donald, you want to go first?
Sure. So here's the thing. We have conversations sometimes about how the kids talk to us. And it's very clear that the reason why they talk to us the way they talk to us is because of how we talk to each other and how we talk to them as well. You know what I mean? But
are they being rude?
Oh, my kids can be one of the rudest kids. You know what I mean? Like, as a
Yeah,
matter of
they
fact,
speak
I'd
to
really
them
like, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to get my wife to be able to hear some
not
of
right
this.
now. We don't have time for her right now.
She's not going to say anything. Get out of here, man. I'm going to go get her. Hold
Oh,
on.
Jesus.
Hold
All
on,
right.
hold on.
Hold
Play
on.
the song, Daniel.
We have to play her theme song.
CaCee, come down here. I don't know nothing about raising these fools, so tell me what to do. I don't know nothing about raising these kids, and that's what it is.
All right, there she is. This is Jillian.
I
That's
was saying
CaCee.
how I feel like we have great communication, but when it comes to the kids, that's when I kind of, whatever you want to do, babe, however it is you want to do.
I'll explain it to
Am I
her
wrong?
because she's got
Two
headphones
sides.
on.
There's probably two sides, but go ahead.
Yeah, well,
Right, and
Don, we're talking about communication, and Jillian is a dating and a couples communication expert, and we were talking about how you guys can get in arguments about how to handle it when the kids are rude to you, and she was going to guide Donald through a way that you guys can communicate it in a more healthy way.
Nice.
Well, here's something that's really helpful for kids, if I might share. Pick three really attainable things that they can attain, three things that they need to do, which is sort of like a rule in order for them to, keep their phone for the week. But it's just three things. So it's not a whole list of a bunch of rules, but just three things and things that they can actually accomplish.
So would they be like chores?
Yeah, but only three things. Like,
Okay.
you have on Mondays, this is so random. On Mondays, you have to take out the trash.
Okay.
And when you get home from school, you have to spend 20 minutes in your room, chilling out, and then you can go do whatever. Or you have to do 20 minutes of homework between this and this. And then the third one is something, again, easy for them to attain. Not so many rules. I don't know how old are your kids?
11 and 9.
Mm-hmm. So not so many rules.
We don't have many rules.
We don't.
But you have to have the 3.
True.
That's the problem.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem is that there's no rules.
So you just have to make it very simple for them. Like, mommy and daddy and I, discuss this, and, there are 3 things that needs to be done. And this is them. And make sure it's just really, really simple, really clear. And then if they do that for let's say 3 weeks, or at the end of the week, they get some sort of reward.
Okay. No, I'm all for structure. This one's
the reward system works very well.
Well, Donald was mentioning before you came on, CaCee, that you guys sort of argue yourselves about how to handle when the kids are speaking disrespectfully to you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts versus Donald's?
Well, I don't know what Donald said, but what I think the problem is that we're all together all the time. So there's they're good kids. I've seen bad kids. I don't have bad kids, really.
I believe you.
But they do start speaking to us as if we're all peers because we're all together all the time. And for instance, our daughter my daughter's been sick, and I've been home, stuck in the house for 3 days, literally nursing her, coddling her, waiting on her hand and foot. And then last night she got her homework and just flipped out on me and attacked me because of her homework.
Well, she attacked all of us, actually.
She attacked all of us, but directed towards me. And, I'm like, you can go to bed if you don't want to hang out and be respectful.
She was like, all right, bet.
So she goes to bed at 6:00, and she will power through it the whole night. But then she started coming downstairs and being really disrespectful. And I told Donald, I said, you need to go upstairs and have a talk with her about how she's speaking to me. Because I didn't feel like me speaking to her at that moment was going to help. I had already said what I needed to say. And he was like, what? I'm playing my game.
Here's the most important thing.
That boiled down to, I don't want to go upstairs and say some shit that fucks her up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go upstairs and punish her. I don't want to raise my voice and yell at her and stuff like that.
You don't have to raise your voice.
Because I don't think that's going to, I can do that with my boy. I could do that all the time. But with my daughter, I feel like there's a
it's the same. Well, Zach just shared that his father yelled at him all the time, and that what that created. So it's not about yelling at your kids ever, really. Here's the thing. When it comes to child rearing, the most important thing, and when it comes to any relationship, this is a marriage, a romantic relationship. This boils down to all the principles in my book.
Marriage is romantic. Hold on now.
What? Exactly. It's all about managing your internal state. So when we're triggered, right? Whatever it is, someone we're dating says something or does something. Our kid is being fresh and says something or does something, or a parent or our partner, whatever, spouse. It's always about managing this is not easy, by the way, at all. And you will fail. We will all fail. There's great magic in saying to the person you love, whoever that person is, I just lost control over there and I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that it came out like that. That was not cool. But because it's really about managing our internal states.
Yeah.
And so much of all relationships is projection. It's you are not saying, doing, and being the way that I want you to be. Mm-hmm. And that makes me feel very out of control. This 100% pertains to parenting. Mm-hmm. That makes me feel out of control. That makes me feel anxious that somehow I'm going to be messing up or have some, messed up kid, or I'm not going to be enough for my partner. But we have to manage our projections all the time. Whoever you are in relationship with, regardless, again, of who that person is, They are autonomous beings with their own brains, their own mouths, their own everything. And sometimes they're going to do stuff that we are going to take really personally, but it's not personal.
Mm-hmm.
And so just so as not to take this into the direction of how to child rear, because I know that's not the focus of today. And it's, but what I will say that I really believe is invaluable advice is manage your internal state. And if your child is acting out, manage your internal state.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that you allow behavior that is unacceptable, but just keep managing your reaction. Maybe there's something going on with her or him in that moment. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe there's some hormonal change happening because based on their ages, I would imagine there's a lot starting to happen.
There's a lot between my age and her age.
Yeah, exactly. You got right.
Oh my God.
You got perimenopause. Yeah, perimenopause, and then someone who's like going to be menstruating soon or whatever it is. So it's so have a little mindfulness around that and how that can be adding to the dynamic.
And you need to be mindful of that too.
Well, that's what I was worried about too yesterday when you were like, go talk to her. In my mind, I was like, what if this is something that I don't really know nothing about? Like, what if she's
in that moment, she just wants you to have her back because she feels so powerless.
Got it.
Yeah.
And
instead,
so
that's what's happening.
By you not controlling your internalness towards me, I took it as, I don't feel like getting up off the couch to go handle this problem.
Nah,
right, but the reality is what's happening is that his avoidance of that is fear. In that moment, she's wanting a protector, an ally. She's feeling helpless and hopeless.
Yeah.
So now,
what's interesting? Sorry to interrupt you, but what's interesting is just as you take this apart and having it not even be about the child, it's about two people that have totally different stories going on in their heads.
Yes.
And then they're both upset because they're living something that isn't on the same page.
Yeah.
And that moment, they can't necessarily communicate that. But now as we analyze it, you go, oh, this is why you're both upset because you want this and you have different expectations of what this moment should be. And you're not on the same page.
Yes, I think that's very well said.
Agree
and so
completely.
that's actually a chapter in the book. The mind is a battlefield. So you have to be really mindful of how the mind can work. Oh, he doesn't love me. He doesn't care. He's just sitting on the couch. He's not my protector. Oh my God. She's going to put me in a position where I'm going to like completely have this, I'm going to interfere with my relationship with my daughter and then I'm going to mess something up. So it begins with having that kind of vulnerable, transparent conversation with each other.
Right. That's what I was going to say. That's what I want to lead to is that so in the ideal world, these two people the next day when things are calm would get together and say, hey, can we talk a minute for a second about last night? Yeah. I felt that, this is what I felt without making the other person wrong. This is what I felt, right?
The story that I'm telling myself about this, the way that I perceive this, I know that this could be a story that I'm making up. My experience though, and how I was feeling was this.
Yeah,
and then the other person can say, validate.
I hear you.
Validate. I hear you. Validate. Because a lot of, and men, of course, deserve validation, but understand that women definitely go through life with a lot of people not validating their experience. Mm-hmm. So just validate. And then, and you have to validate his as well, of course.
Yeah, but then you are able to say, then you can validate and say, I hear you. I don't want you to feel that way. My experience of that, my story was totally different.
Yes.
This is what I felt.
Yes.
And that's why we had this argument. But so you're not putting it on the other person to say, you're wrong. You did X, Y, Z. You're saying, let me tell you.
You're taking full responsibility.
Full responsibility for your feelings. This is what I felt.
For your story.
Yes. I want to take full responsibility for my story. This is what I felt. Nothing.
Yes.
I'm not putting anything on you. This is what I felt. And I want to be open with you about why I felt the way I felt.
Yes.
And then ideally the partner says, okay, I hear you. I can see why you would feel, I didn't see that at the time. I can see why you would feel that. My story isn't exactly the same. Let me tell you what I was feeling. And then the partner, right? And then the partner goes, okay. And then then there's, you both feel seen.
But just so you know, had I not come up here and got on this Zoom or this podcast,
we would have never known.
I would have never in a million years ever assumed that this fool was scared to screw something up with.
Right, but this is the heart of the problem: is that
Yeah,
then you
and
would
this
might
happened
maybe
over-
you would have resentment towards
Oh, yeah.
Donald for not helping you out,
Yeah.
and that's
then
what we're
it's
talking about.
And it's all this.
And then it snowballs into this resentment and then anger. And then he gets pissed that I'm just not responsive to him
Exactly.
at all. And then the whole house is walking on eggshells because dad
Because of that,
/
yes.
Donald's in a bad mood.
Yes, exactly. So the beautiful thing about this conversation right now is that you're learning about something about each other.
Yeah.
And you're learning about like certain fears, and we all have a blueprint and of how the world should be. We all have a parental blueprint. So if we become parents, we have these beliefs and this story about what's going to make us a good father or a good mother. Like, we come into relationships with this. And so the more that we can have these kind of conversations about like, what does this mean to you? What are your fears around it? Like, what's your biggest fear about being a dad? And have these kind of conversations. So they're not necessary. They don't always have to be conversations where you're repairing. They're conversations that create more emotional intimacy. And the whole point of a relationship is to deepen emotional intimacy between you and another human being, which helps you grow, which helps you feel more connected, which helps you feel more seen. Because anyone can have sex. Anyone can have superficial relationships, but a relationship, a committed relationship, this is really what it's all about. And that's why I'm so passionate about, don't commit to the person who you can't do this with. And also, you have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone to really open yourself up, because you can't just wait for the other person to do it to give you that invitation. You really have to see right away. These are the building blocks of a relationship.
Well, and also
marriage.
early on in courtship and dating, you need to. I see now. It's so important to say, are you down for this kind of relationship? If you're not interested in being overly communicative and in working on it, on this level, or if we need it in couples therapy, whatever it is, reading a book or two, or if you're not interested in having that kind of digging deep with me, then you're probably not the one for me, because this is the kind of thing I want to have.
Yes,
I feel like-
absolutely.
I feel
as
like
long
we
as you
did-
make it safe for the other person to be able to open up to you.
I feel like we did all of that stuff before we got married and in the early stages of marriage. I think as the kids get older, I think that's where.
Well, there's two of us. There's two B's in the house, and there's two Donalds in the house. So it's very like.
And also, stage of life matters.
Yeah.
So it's the stage of life of your relationship. It's the stage of life where you are in your personal life hormonally. It's the stage of life, of course, of your kids. Parenting a 5-year-old is not the same thing as parenting a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And not the same thing as parenting an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old.
All right, CaCee, we're going to kick you
This
out
was
now.
amazing. Thank you.
Glad
Thanks for
we
joining.
could help.
Thank you.
I'm just saying, man, we're lucky that we do a podcast like this, Zach.
This
Because
has helped out a lot.
I know we get the Faisons
cool.
get free
we get
therapy.
lucky
It's
to
amazing.
join on the show, and all of a sudden,
All right,
We
I
can
hope you
add
guys have
another
really
5
good.
years.
I hope you guys have really good. I hope you guys have really good sex tonight. Okay,
Yeah,
you can
seriously,
thank
you
me. And, you can
Nice
thank me
to
and Jillian.
meet you. Thank you, Zach.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Jillian.
Jillian, thank you. I think we just saved their marriage. And when we come back,
Well, hold on now.
I'm
Hold
just
on
doing
now.
a bit. I want to talk more about dating when we're back with Jillian, because her book and her things she posts and says on Instagram, I think, are so helpful for dating. So we'll be right back after these words.
And we're back.
And we're back. Okay, I noticed one of the chapters of your books, or I don't know if they're chapters or you call them truths.
Yes.
Lust is not the same thing as love.
That is
Hell no,
correct.
that is absolutely correct.
No, I know, but I want to tease that out a bit, because I think that many of us get so entranced with someone, and it's just about the exciting titillation of being attracted to them sexually.
Yes.
And then that
yeah.
ends or peters out a bit, and then you're left with something that doesn't have a good foundation because it was just sexual attraction, right?
Yes. A lot of people confuse the two. When we first meet someone and there's an attraction there, and when we're really excited about someone in the beginning, it's not just sexual. Usually when we get very excited about someone, there's different levels of chemistry. It's not just sexual. We feel like there's an intellectual connection too. Like, to get excited about someone truly beyond, oh, I want to sleep with them, you have to feel connected to them. And the thing is, when we feel that excitement in the beginning, they awaken something inside of us, which is basically aliveness. And if that sense of novelty and adventure and aliveness has been dormant for a long time, and then we meet someone and they awaken that in us, it's a really fun, beautiful thing. But we think, oh, they are the reason why I'm happy. Mm-hmm. And actually, that's not true. It's very easy to get tricked into believing that your happiness rests in the hands of this other person when you are in lust, because everything is so exciting. But love is trust. Love is safety. And love can also be passion and all of these things, but love is something that you build with someone. And love, like real love is, when we're in the lust phase, and a lot of people get addicted to that, it's very immature, because basically it's saying, I'm in love, I put that in big air quotes, with my projected fantasy of who I believe or what I want a woman to be or what I want a man to be.
Yeah.
And then as soon as things get, more real, there's emotional intimacy, we're seeing each other's shortcomings and depth and nuance. A lot of people will say, you're not perfect. I don't want anything. I'll pull away.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you think that's worse? Do you think that's even worse these days with the apps and everything? Everyone's just like, all right,
absolutely. Next. That's me personally.
Yeah, I think it definitely plays a role. I think that it's very easy to forget each other's humanity in all this. And I think a lot of things play a role. I think romanticism plays a role. I think film and television, literature and art can play a role of what love is or isn't. It's like the romantic comedy shows you all the craziness in the beginning of getting the person or being rescued by the person. But they don't show you like a year in, right? There's no examples of that. And love to me is what is a choice. Love is something that, lust is easy. It's something that we just feel and almost have no control over. But love is something that is very much a verb, and it's something that you give. It's not just something that you receive. And a lot of people say, well, I love this person. No, you didn't. You felt like crazy attracted to them. You didn't even know them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You make up a whole story of who they are even before you get to know who they are. And then
you get addicted to that story of who they are.
Right. And you're like, I think especially when you're single and you kind of get excited about someone, one's brain can all of a sudden just like quickly write a script that they're the most amazing person, they're all these things. Yes. And then little by little, you're like, oh, all of that I made up myself. Yeah. That's none of that's real. And now I'm disappointed because who they truly are doesn't align with what I made up.
There's only one movie, I'm sorry to cut you all off. There's only one movie that I really believe at the end of the day, when it ends, that they were happily ever after. And that's When Harry Met Sally. But that's just me.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, because they were friends for so long beforehand. And that's why.
And there was nothing but great communication between the two of them for so long.
And friendship.
And genuine friendship,
genuine friendship.
They found communication before lust, which is interesting.
Yes, they found friendship before lust.
Yeah.
Like I say this all the time, my best friend is my wife.
I thought I was your best friend.
Well, you are my best friend, but she trumps you, but that's just because
friendship is very important for long-term relationship. But it'll always be a balance of friendship and passion and keeping the passion alive. But I will say that a relationship, it's very hard to make a relationship last over the long term if there isn't friendship there.
Yeah.
And also
agree
willingness
100%.
to evolve, right? Because we're all growing
Yes.
and changing, and you have to be willing to.
Willing to evolve, and also willingness to accept the other's evolution and their pace. And to, everything's a balance. If you grow too quickly, that can be very destabilizing for a relationship. If you're not growing at all, then you can get very bored, and boredom is not good for a relationship.
Boredom is the worst thing for. I think if you don't evolve at all,
or try new things, or do fun things
gosh,
together. Yeah,
what are you
very important.
doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
All
our
right,
business,
I have another truth I
okay,
want.
let me just finish. My business manager just recently said to us, you guys are spending money the wrong way. Go make memories and stuff like that. You guys are spending money on food and eating and stuff like that. Go out there and enjoy enjoy the kids, enjoy time with each other. And that really hit me hard. It was like, holy shit, you're absolutely right. I'm sitting here worried about not spending this money and not, losing this money. But what I really need to be worried about is creating memories and creating and evolving and creating experiences.
Positive
with
experiences.
Positive experiences with my family. And I wasn't doing that, and we weren't doing that,
Couples need dopamine enhancing experiences together, especially if they've been together for a long time. They need to do things that gets the cortisol going and triggers the dopamine, the excitement. Because there's two aspects to a relationship. There's the serotonin aspect, which is you're nesting together, and some couples are more lean more towards that. Like there's nesting, there's the friendship, there's the coziness, but then there's the dopamine, which is like we need to have some new experiences, we need to have some fun, we need to have a little novelty. And so I think you were always sort of straddling that line between those two things.
You posted a quote on your Instagram. I wanted to just mention. To love someone long term is to attend 1,000 funerals of the people they used to be.
Not my quote. That's Heidi Priebe. But yes, I did post it.
I know it's not your quote, but it's beautiful, and I think it's kind of what we're talking about being
Absolutely.
along for the ride of the evolution.
Yes, it's very true. I mean, if you think of a long-term relationship, there's going to be you're going to have many relationships within one relationship. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of examples of enduring love. We have a lot of examples of falling in love, a lot of examples, like I said, in art, but we don't have a lot of examples of enduring love. And there is a tremendous opportunity to grow spiritually. I mean, look, just even the conversation that we had today, the two of you recognizing, oh, it's the story in my head, like that can yield now a conversation between the two of you that has the potential to deepen your bond, to deepen your friendship, to deepen your love.
Yeah. Jillian and I can counsel you together if you want. We're very expensive.
Exactly.
What about falling in and out of love, but then back in love again? Does that exist in this whole conversation?
In long-term relationships, what causes people to fall out of love is the loss of passion, right? It's like, what's the difference between loving someone and being in love with them? Is passion, is feeling passionate towards them. And yes, you can restore passion in a long-term relationship. And so if you feel like if people feel like they're falling out of love, typically what that means is there's a little boredom that's set in, and they need a little bit of dopamine activities, and they have to do some exciting things together. Maybe one or both of them need to grow individually or together. But there's certainly a way to revive that if their foundation is strong enough between two people.
What if it's not a long-term relationship? What if it's a relationship that happened for, like, let's say a year, then they break up? And
what if it's your side piece? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm not saying it's your side piece. I'm saying, what if
Just
it's...
kidding.
What
if someone were to have the side piece, and the side piece relationship isn't going that well, but you want to keep it going? Hypothetically.
No, I'm sincere about this. Like, is there a conversation where... because I've seen it happen before where they were together, they broke up, they got back together, and now their bond is stronger than it's ever been. You know what I mean? And I'm not one that believes in going backwards, but I've seen
it can happen. It can happen if both people take 100% responsibility for their experience and they want to go, they want to do 2.0 of their relationship and make it better. I mean, lots of things are possible.
Yeah. What's your advice on people who are listening and might be thinking like, oh, should I go back? Did I miss that person? Should I try and repair? Or do you think that usually ends poorly?
It really just depends. I mean, more times than not, the answer is no, you shouldn't go back. Right. But there are instances where people say, I did a lot of self-reflecting and I realized how I contributed to whatever didn't work. And I really want to give this another go. But you just have to be able to take full responsibility. Often, I don't really think you should go back to the person who completely betrayed you and broke your heart. I don't think you should go back to the person who mistreats you. And by mistreatment, I mean manipulation. Obviously, if there's any violence, but anyone who made you feel less than.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about you had an argument and then you feel a little insecure. I'm talking about you never knew where you stood with someone. You never felt good enough for someone. The
person has to be, outside of, let's just say for this example, outside of abuse and outside of infidelity.
Yes.
The person has to be willing to work on the thing. They have to be willing to show up differently.
Yes, but I don't believe in giving someone who consistently made you feel not good enough a second chance.
I heard
well,
that.
Here's a great. That's a great. And now it's another. I want to.
Not everyone would agree with me on that, but
I think most people. I mean, I agree with that. How about that?
Yeah.
That's.
I'm not talking about one argument where you didn't feel good enough or a situation. I'm talking about you never felt good enough for this person.
Yeah. Well, it leads to another Jillian Turecki quote that I like that I wanted to say. Never make your life harder by trying to convince someone to stay in your life. If someone believes their happiness is somewhere else, don't hold them back from finding it. Because if they stay, you need it to be because they want to. You deserve and need to be chosen every day.
Yes. One of the most profound lessons I ever learned about love and relationships is that you cannot convince someone to love you or to choose you or to stay. Yeah. That is the law of the land. You just cannot. And so,
but a lot of people listening are going, but what if I?
Yeah, exactly. No, you really can't. There's a difference between fighting for your relationship and fighting to be enough for someone. And you need to know the difference. And you just look, letting go is messy, it's complicated, it's hard, it's heartbreaking. But it's better to adopt the mentality of that if someone thinks that their happiness is somewhere else other than with you, don't stand in the way of them finding that happiness, because trying to convince them to love you or that they're going to be happy with you, it is never going to work. It's going to work against you in every way.
Yeah, you lose all your power if you're being somebody else that's not you.
You lose all your power. Exactly. And you can't make someone love you or choose you. People, we have free will for a reason. And you only want to be in a relationship with someone who chooses to be there. That's the only way. It doesn't have a chance to work otherwise.
I'm sure there's people listening who are like, yeah, but if I can just convince them by being this or being that.
Question yourself. Never change yourself. It's one thing. Look, we all have certain habits that we need to work on. If we're in a relationship, we may have certain habits like, hey, that's maybe something that you need to work on. But you should never change who you are. Yeah. You are who you are. And
I think there's so much stressful trying to be somebody else. There's so much anxiety. There's so much anxiety in playing a character in a relationship.
Yeah, but we come from a world where playing characters is like, we live in the la la land. You know what I mean? Like, we all play a character in order to keep a job, in order to
right. But that's not healthy to be in a relationship. You are because I've seen it up close, 100% authentically yourself with your partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
And
might
she
have
is
your
100. Right.
Yeah,
and
and
she
you
is
guys may have
100%
you have your issues, like all human beings have their issues, but you're not sitting there going, I'm being inauthentic. You are proudly 100% yourself with her, and she chooses it, and the same thing, and vice versa.
And vice versa, yes.
And I think what Jillian is saying is like, you be careful to not try and convince someone or be something you're not, because how the fuck can you keep that up? That's so stressful to like pretend you're somebody that isn't who you truly are. And
Yeah,
don't
you
you want to
mislead.
ideally find someone who's so in love with who you truly are? I mean, isn't that the
Yeah.
ideal?
Yeah.
That is the ideal.
You have a relationship doesn't work unless people accept one another. And it's just the bottom line.
Sometimes it's
And
so
it's-
hard though, because you're just so in love. And you can love someone so much, but also be like, gosh, I don't know that we're compatible, but there's still so much love there.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And I think that, that's why love is not enough. You have to agree on, be in alignment on what a life well lived is. You have
Yeah.
to have some goals that you share. You have to want. Oh, I hear a little puppy.
That's my little rescue puppy.
Yeah.
Oh, not little, my 80-pound rescue puppy. I like that quote. Love is not enough. That could be a good title for your second book.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, including myself, are like, but I love her.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but that's not enough. Does what you want and what you need align?
Yes. And is it love? It's love is definitely not enough. It's important. It's very important. But and that's why people need to clarify what it is that they really want, what kind of relationship that they really want. And it's very hard to say goodbye to someone you love because it's just not working.
Yeah, that's fucking really hard.
Can relationship can it still work as just a friendship though? You know what I mean?
You mean after you're in love?
Yeah. Like
Some relationships never die, they just change form. And they transition into friendship because their relationship was already just friendship. They lost all the passion. Very difficult. You can't have complicated feelings towards each other and then be like, okay, we're going to be friends.
I know.
Typically, you need some distance.
And then also when they start dating other people, it's like,
it becomes really complicated. It can become very complicated.
Like, I don't think I'm friends with anybody I dated. And that's a sad thing to say, but it's also a realistic thing to say. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's really weird to be in such a, forever how long you're in the space for, but you're in a trusting space. You're in a, you know what I mean, for a year, 6 months, 2 years, you break up, and then all of a sudden you never have a conversation with that person ever again. And if you do,
it's wild.
It's fucking nuts. And it's like you don't even recognize them. You might not even recognize their name if somebody were to say it to you. Like, who? You know what I mean? Like it's
all right,
crazy.
So I want to give you the last, we'll let Jillian go, but I want to give her one last Jillian quote from your Instagram I really liked was, stop romanticizing the person who broke your heart.
Yes, when we break up with someone,
Joelle's nodding. I feel like Joelle may have said preach.
It hurt my heart a little bit. I was like, I recognize the feeling. Oh gosh.
But I think everyone can relate to that, especially after a little time passes, right? And then, you go.
Yeah, we just tend to make out the person to be much, much more special than they actually are. And that's not to put them down, but we tend to remember the highlight reel instead of, these are like the documentary. I remember a therapist by the name of John Kim saying that. And then we think, oh, they're the one, they're perfect, I love them. It's like, really? Or are you just attached and heartbroken, which is a completely normal thing for you to experience? But I see it all the time. Someone treats you in such a way that's actually not loving, or you really didn't get along, or like you really were incompatible, or this person had real, true, serious character defects, but you're heartbroken. So you tend to romanticize them and think, I can't live without this person. This person is amazing. And it's all the mind playing a major trick on you.
Yeah. Because you're lonesome and you're like you said, you're only thinking of the highlight reels. You're not thinking of all the other shit.
But the highlight reel is dope, man. Let's keep it 100. You guys remember fucking Family Ties did it best. What did you think I would do at this? And he's going through the highlight reel of him and the girl and all the things they went through. And you know what I mean? The highlight reel is fire.
Right.
The documentary sucks, yo.
The highlight reel will really mess with your head because it's not accurate.
It's not accurate.
It's like a great movie trailer for a shitty movie.
That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
Exactly is. And
Jillian, that's your third book. That's your third book.
In a world.
It's really true. I used to go to the movies and just like want to watch the trailer. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, please check out It Begins With You, Jillian Turecki's awesome book. And also make sure to follow her on Instagram. I just love it. I love all the things you post. Just like Joelle nodded, I find myself going, when I read your quotes. And it's just really helpful. If you're dating, if you're working on relationship, not just romantic relationships in your like we learned earlier with your children, with your friends. I just think everything you're putting out there is really, really good for the world. So thank you for coming on.
And you're very, what's the word I'm looking for? You give a lot on your Instagram. The things that you say, you give a lot actually to your followers. And I really appreciate that as one of your followers. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Thank you for that. Seriously.
Well, Donald, I'm going to use some of these tools for our relationship.
Exactly.
I mean,
because I've been hurt.
Watch the stories in your head.
I've been hurt by you before, and
vice versa.
And I haven't communicated well. And I think I would have benefited if I had the courage to.
I feel like you're so full of shit right now, my friend. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Out of everybody I know, the people that you're very communicative with are your friends.
There's definitely times we've gotten in arguments and I just go, oh, fuck it. I'm just not going to talk to him and I'll wait till I'm not pissed off anymore. Where we could have benefited
There's
from.
some value to that though.
Yeah, I know, but I could have benefited from cooling off and then being like, hey, can we have a chat about something? This pissed me off.
Or letting it go. And if you could let it go.
Yeah, but I don't want to let, in the spirit of what we're talking about, let too many things go because then you build resentment, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. No. If you let it go, it has to be a genuine letting go.
He'll hit me up like, dude, you don't do nothing for the podcast. You need to fucking start doing more. And I'm like, wait a second, I think I do a lot. He'd be like, no, bro, I need you to do way more. Like you're very.
That's me being communicative. That's good.
Yeah, I love it. And that's what I love when
as
you do
opposed
that.
to being resentful, like this motherfucker doesn't do shit.
Those are funny.
I wanted to tell you, Donald, did Timothy Chalamet live in your building?
I don't recall him.
Because I saw him on a talk show, just a clip. Did you see that clip?
Yeah, he grew up in Manhattan Plaza.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of people that lived in Manhattan Plaza after I left. I left in 94 or 5.
Well, he's a lot younger than us. But then also the actor, what's his name from Sing Sing?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know him either.
Coleman Domingo.
He only lived there for a little bit. I don't think he lived there for very long.
They were on that famous English talk show.
Yeah.
What's his name, Joelle? I've been on it. I don't know. I forgot. But they were talking about Manhattan Plaza, and I thought of you because I knew you grew up there.
Yeah, when I was there, there were other people that were, Giancarlo Esposito is one of my mentors, and I, used to watch him play basketball when I was a little kid. A lot of people came.
Graham Norton.
Yeah. Philip Seymour Hoffman was a camp counselor of mine. Like the list of people that came through that building is incredible. And so the fact that Timothy was there, or Timotei, however you say it, Chalamet, however you say his name, the fact that he was there, it doesn't surprise me because a lot of creatives have come out of that building.
Yeah. And your mom still live there?
She does. My nephew, I asked him, I was like, did you know this guy? And about Timotei. and
Timothy. Why do you have to give him a weird name?
Timothy. That's how we be saying it in our household.
Timothy?
We love this boy. I'm going to keep it 100.
You love Timothy?
Oh, who doesn't love some Timothy? If you don't love some Timothy, there's something wrong. That boy is very, very talented.
Yeah, he's
very,
very
very
talented.
charismatic and very knowledgeable on sports too. So, I'm a huge fan of his.
Who's your pick for the Super Bowl? This will probably be very old, but when it comes out. But who's your pick for the Super Bowl?
I think Kansas City wins their third Super Bowl in a row. I think it's coming out of the AFC this year.
Joelle, what do you think?
I have no thoughts on the Super Bowl except I can't wait for this halftime show. Let's go, Kendrick. I'm very excited.
Okay.
Well,
let's
they
go.
Not like us.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if he brought Drake out though?
There's no way he's bringing Drake out.
That's going to happen. Well, that was a great conversation, Donald. I learned a lot. I hope you did.
I did, and I think my wife learned a lot too, which is great. We learned a lot about each other, which is great. And, every time Jillian's on the show, I feel like we learned something not only about ourselves, but about, it isn't about who we want to be, it's who we are. You know what I mean? Like, that real, you can front and pretend and try to be something you're not, but you're only going to fail at the end. It's when you are comfortable with who you are.
Yeah.
And your have the courage, or your person is comfortable with who they are, and you both can accept that. It just makes for such a better relationship.
Yeah, and have the courage to be vulnerable and say what you're feeling without accusing the other person. That's one of the things I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I believe in love for you still, bro.
I have a dog now. I'm fine. I don't need love.
I hope you don't get dog flu.
I got Joelle and I are both. Well, I don't know, Joelle. I don't know if you're still single, but we're both still single. We're both single and in love with our pitties, so that's all we need.
I hope y'all don't get dog flu.
Don't be gross.
All right. On that note, we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Some stories about a show we made about a bunch of docs and nurses.